We'd like you, if you would, to describe the kind of transit systems you envision in Milwaukee County in 2012. How are they paid for? What places do they connect? And who do they serve?
The kind of transit system that I envision is like the transit system when I was growing up. One that you can go to a bus stop, and I met a beautiful little girl in the audience today who came up to me and said, I don't like that they cut the buses, and it takes too long. I want a transit system that keeps routes like Route 15, Route 11, keeps those routes in place. I want a transit system that you can literally not have to get up and, 2 to 3 hours ahead of time so you can make it to work on time. A system that has enough usefulness so that there will increase ridership. For those of you who may not be aware, we used to have the best system in the nation for a mid-sized system. Approximately 3 years before our county executive, our present county executive became our county executive. In 5 years, he's taken our ridership back to what it was 33 years ago. In addition to that, he's increased fares to 50% to what it's equivalent to in the Chicago area. So what I envision is, a system that is useful to the individuals in the community. And how is that paid for? That's paid for by making sure that the mismanagement, the inefficiencies that presently exist in county government because of the mismanagement of the county executive, that we can redirect those proceeds. And in addition to that, we ultimately may have to look at an independent funding source if we can't get all the funds that we need from the federal level and the state level, and it takes someone who has relationships to get us those kind of proceeds.
It seems that public transit in Milwaukee is a hot topic because all of the questions from the audience for the county executive are also on bus use. I'm just going to go to those right away. How will you promote bus use?
I had an opportunity to ride the bus most recently so that I could talk to the individuals who are riding the bus every day. And, one of the ways that you promote whatever it is that you want in your business is that you encourage it by shining a light on it, making sure that people know that it's there. You try to figure out where you can improve it to make it more useful to individuals in the community. So the things that I heard when I talked to people on Route 15 was the lack of access was the thing that made individuals not utilize the routes as much as they used to. When I talked to individuals who are now driving to work, it was because the route that was on near their job was cut. So they had to ultimately not continue to ride. So we have to be accountable, I think is the best word that I can think of, for the residents and trying to make sure that we're supplying the needs. We need to connect people to the jobs, hospitals, schools, all those kind of things. And my time is up.
Do you support the Kenosha-Racine-Milwaukee, the KRM commuter rail? If yes, or if no, why? If yes, why, and what local funding source do you recommend?
I think saying that it's contingent for me is I think the best answer that I can give you. What do I mean by that? I don't believe that a KRM that doesn't connect to a stable transit system is worth anything. We have to have a system that it can connect to. And I have not liked the proposals that have come forth, frankly, through the legislature. But you often do a lot of compromising in order to get things. I fought very hard for transit funding this time in the state legislature. And I don't know how many of you are aware, but there were 13 routes that the county executive intended to cut. And it was because of the hard work that I did that we were able to save those routes because I was able to get additional state funding, not just for Milwaukee County, but frankly for around the state. So I support KRM. I think the concept of connecting us to Chicago and building the southeastern region is a good concept. We went from key punching to typewriters to computers, but we can't stay with rubber to the road transit. We have to, I think, ultimately move to something else. However, I cannot do that without a stable, bus system. And stabilizing that would be my #1 priority. And looking, throughout the region to figure out what options we could have for KRM would be the things I think about. I'm not really fond of the rental car fee. You have an opinion? Have some fun with it, you know?
As county executive, how would you pay for the state's unfunded mandates like those for health and human services and the courts?
You know, one of the things that I don't realize if Milwaukee County residents understand is that when you send someone to represent you, the relationships that they have are crucial. When you have a county executive that doesn't have relationships at the local level or at the other municipalities or at the state level or at the federal level, it has a direct effect on what kind of proceeds you can get. Let me give you an example. Our present county executive did a budget. In his budget, there were several amendments. And then there were vetoes that he did. 20 vetoes. Of the 20 vetoes he did, 19 were overturned. No relationships on the county board. I don't care what he says to you. That's an example of his own ineffectiveness, and frankly, he made himself irrelevant in the process. He had no relationships with the county board to even maintain his vetoes. In addition to that, at the state level, transportation, the funding that I got was very difficult to get those proceeds for our state because no one wanted to help our county executive. So one of the things I believe that I can do is take the relationships I have at the state level and frankly at the federal level, maximize them for us. It's nothing like having a really good cheerleader on your side going to advocate for us.
What have you done or will you do to provide adequate funding for the endangered park system?
You know, one of the things, we have a new DNR secretary, Secretary Frank, and one of the first things I talked to him about when he came to my office, you know, were two issues. One, how can we connect DNR to helping us to revitalize our parks in the Milwaukee County area? And has anyone talked to you about this? His first response was no, no one had. And his second thing was we could begin to have those kind of conversations. Excuse me. In addition, the PCB in Lincoln Creek is something that's extremely annoying for me. And trying to figure out what we can do to clean up those areas are some of the issues that we're working on. And so there are many things, and I wish I could tell you everything that I've done in the legislature and that it's on the top of my mind, everything that I've done to protect the environment. You know, the thing that I can think of now, and it's not directly park related, but it's environment related, is the Great Lakes, you know, Compact. And that's the environmental piece that's really, you know, on the forefront of my mind. But our parks, the best thing I can say to you is I had a chance to go up north, and my time is technically up, but I just want to say this really quickly. I had a chance, since no one's here, to refute. Can I have just one moment? I had a chance to go up north, and they always say that it's God's country. When I went, it made me realize why Wisconsin, everyone says it's so beautiful. It's just gorgeous up north. Well, our parks, it's my closest piece to God's country. So for me, 100 years ago, those, you know, great socialists that created our parks, created them, and they had enough vision so that we could have somewhere that we could run and play. I think it's our responsibility to make sure that our legacy is that we protect it for the generation to come. We make it stronger.